where do we begin?
Well, it's hard to pick anywhere because this movie is so devoid of anything that there's nothing to latch onto.
Hello, and welcome to HAZMAT, the only show that's going to have a really bad animated remake. I'm Matt.
And I'm Harry.
And this is the monthly thing, the part of the show where we talk about every new film or series we watched in the last month, whether we recommend them, what we thought about them, and how we felt watching them.
Oh, just real nostalgic for the first one.
As always, we may get into some spoilery territory, so we will recommend up front, and then you can just decide whether you want to continue to hear us talk. If you don't, I understand, but I do not like you.
Also, headphones are recommended because then it's like we're talking right in your ear. It's like we're sitting next to you and talking right into your ear holes.
Yeah. Also, I'm getting over a cold, so that's going to be a really nice sensation in your ear to hear my voice right now. To hear my croaky throat sniffling. First up, Thunderbolts. Asterix.
Yeah.
The new Avengers.
Bastards.
It has been out a month. I don't think that's a spoiler anymore.
Not a spoiler anymore.
Considering they made it part of the marketing by day 2. They
Yeah,
sort
it
of
was
ruined
very,
that for everyone quite quick.
very quick to change it.
I'm very glad we saw this before any of that started happening. And we managed to witness that twist on our own.
I mean, real good money-making scheme, though. You trick people into thinking that they're missing something out, and then it's just the same movie.
It's another
again.
film.
It's just the same movie.
Oh, the
again.
new Avengers just come out. Right, let's go. Hang on a minute. A recommend from me.
Yeah, easy.
Best Marvel in a while, I'd say. Are they back on track, folks? Are we back? We were cooked for so long. I think we might be back.
I wouldn't say back on track purely for the reason of this kind of exists as its own standalone story. So in the wider scheme of things, of how it plays into everything else and where it's leading to, fairly inconsequential.
Right, I guess, yeah. And that, I think, made it feel like nostalgic and a bit like old Marvel, which is what I kind of felt about this. It felt a bit Age of Ultron era, maybe even earlier, like first Avengers vibes, where it's like this team that's been thrown together, but they've got like great chemistry, and it just sort of felt like that vibe again, where it was a bit more of a self-contained story, and it wasn't just another episode in the series, which is what like a lot of them have felt like ever since Endgame. Everything just feels like it's setting up something else. I mean, we've talked extensively about our issues with like the latest phases, and I think this managed to like not completely fix them, but kind of go in a better direction.
Yeah, interesting kind of setup, I guess, because like you said, I rewatched the first Avengers movie recently, and like to see characters like it's mainly sort of Black Widow, Hulk, and Hawkeye, who didn't, depending on who you ask, didn't really have their own sort of solo outings or like extensive screen presence until that movie, and how that was still sort of like the excitement of seeing them all come together, despite the fact we'd only really just been introduced to these, like half the team. And that's kind of the whole team this time around, is they'd been side characters, supporting cast in other movies.
That's what kind of made it so magical, is that it was kind of low stakes in a way.
Yeah.
Like, none of these characters were anyone's favourite at this point. They were all side characters in other people's films, or even like forgotten characters or characters people might have missed. And so because the kind of, you go into it not expecting that much, it just makes it so much better that like, it makes it so surprising that they've got such chemistry and work so well as a team and are actually like developed characters in this one. They did well to kind of just bring these smaller characters together, give them a nice bit of like backstory. They sort of developed on a couple of backstories here, and like just gave them arcs, I think, that they were missing beforehand because they were just in other people's stories.
Yeah. Some of them sort of kept what they had going on for them and just sort of cranked it up a bit. Like, I mean, Yelena in this sort of acts as the de facto main character, and she's the one that's probably the only one in the group who'd really made much of an impact before this movie.
Yeah.
I think she's one of the highlights of that Black Widow movie and one of the highlights of the Hawkeye series as well.
He's definitely not biased.
Definitely not
He's
biased.
Definitely not biased
for
because
any
of
specific
who plays
reason.
him.
But then you've got like Red Guardian as well, who sort of, again, in the Black Widow movie, very much adds that sort of element of comedic relief to everything else that's going on.
Yeah.
And they just dialed that up in this one.
He's great in that like comedic relief role, considering how dark this film gets at times. And I think that's another thing I was quite impressed by, is that it does take its darker themes like more seriously. I think Marvel has a tendency to undercut a lot of emotional moments with a gag or a quip. This one felt like it let those moments breathe a bit. It let the darker moments just live and have weight before like just someone comes in with a like, well, that happened style thing. So yeah, I was quite impressed that this one was restrained enough to do that. Didn't feel like it was trying to. It didn't feel like it had been rewritten a million times and that none of them were in the same room and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of lines one after the other. It did feel like it felt like it was weighty and it mattered again. And I think that's why it sort of gave that early Marvel feel, is because it felt like, even though it's a standalone story, it felt important and a weighty part of the canon.
Interesting that you kind of mentioned the whole thing about them taking the theme seriously, because that's a big part of why I like it so much, is the fact that it doesn't take the same route as a lot of other Marvel movies, where it doesn't have the traditional setup of like a traditional villain and it just comes down to good guy fights bad guy at the end. They have one villain and then they're sort of operating in the background, and then we introduce another one who's not really a villain, and then, you know, at the end of the day, the main villain is sort of just depression and like mental health issues and like unresolved trauma.
Depression was the villain all along, guys.
It's a metaphor, but they showed it literally
In a clever way, with all the void stuff and going into their past traumas, kind of having to relive them within the void. Yeah, it was a clever way to do it, and it didn't just feel like a big CGI fight at the end. Like I say, it felt like a different way of doing it, a more subtle way of doing it. Just made it feel fresh. Yeah.
gross.
Pause for cough.
I'd also tack on to the end. I feel like I owe Wyatt Russell an apology, because I've definitely said at some point I think that he wasn't a good actor, but specifically the only other things I'd seen him in before this were Falcon and the Winter Soldier, obviously as the John Walker character, and Night Swim. So
yeah, and you know how he feels about Night Swim, folks.
Yeah, neither of which the writing team did him any favors. I mean, he pretty much did the best with what he had. But this, like, where he sort of gets more of an opportunity to sort of flex what he's capable of in that sort of just bastard, like, piece of shit, cares only for himself archetype. Who also ends up being kind of like endearing and in their own way, even though they're still, by the end of it, not perfect. And that's kind of the overarching theme, is none of them are perfect by the end of it. But they're able to put their differences aside enough to come together and sort of understand each other on a deeper level.
John Walker's given kind of a redemption arc in this, in a way. It's obviously not finished. There's obviously still development there. But yeah, we're given a reason to care about him again, which I don't remember much of Falcon and the Winter Soldier and what he was up to in that. But he was just more of a straight up, like, not evil, but just a bad guy generally.
Yeah. He has like the best shot in recent memory. Like, if you talk about like a single shot, it's like the moment he kind of goes off the wall and basically kills an unlight, and it's like the Captain America shield with the blood dripping from it.
Yeah, it's a good image. It's a good image. And it's like, is there any coming back from that? Is there any redemption for that guy? Well, this film tried and, somewhat succeeded. He's not like we're not fully on his side, but we're definitely invested in his story now, I think.
Yeah,
more so.
He's not the Boy Scout that Steve Rogers was, but he's got a lot to live up to, and they sort of gave him a bit of an edge and also a gun.
Exactly. I mean, that's the thing about this team, is they've somehow made it work, even though it's sort of 3 Captain Americas, or just super soldiers generally, a Black Widow, like fucking evil Superman, and Ghost. It's a very random assortment. I think in the comics, is Thunderbolts more made up of like villains, like traditional villains? And that's the idea.
I think it was more supposed to be along the same lines of like Suicide Squad.
Right, yeah.
In that it was like villains and anti-heroes.
Yeah, and I guess they all were in the middle somewhere. They were kind of like washed up heroes, or like had been on the wrong side of things, or had been used for nefarious purposes by other people. Yeah, I like that there was a bit of a mix of stories and themes between them here. It wasn't just like Marvel Suicide Squad. Like I say, it was just a nice sort of complex group of characters, a little ragtag group. And I think that made for some good chemistry. Yeah, all the actors did great here, I think.
Yeah, it's just
as a
fun
group.
again. I think the last one we saw was that Captain America movie.
Yep.
Which is not fun.
No, that kind of has like a lot of the problems we've been talking about. It's had a lot of the problems of just feeling a bit empty, a bit pointless, a bit like it's just a step to whatever's next. Like I say, this one felt like it was in the moment, and it feels like this one matters right now, and that the sort of references to the outside world were just the cherry on the top. You know, like it was a nice bonus, which is kind of what the MCU started out as, was like separate stories that would occasionally cross over and reference each other. Whereas, like, it's obviously very much become just slap everything, just slap all these different characters in. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Fuck it, just put them in, and just like relying on those Easter eggs, post credits, crossovers to keep hype going, and not actually making sure they made a good story for every film. Whereas this is it. Yeah, it goes back to that old vibe again, where the Easter eggs are like more of a reward than a requirement to enjoy it, you know?
The early sort of post-credits from like phase 1 teased the Thanos thing starting from Avengers, and then very little. Like, it was used quite sparingly.
Yeah.
In post, like a lot of the other post-credit stuff was just linking into whatever the next movie was, rather than
it was just like another character showing up going like, what's up?
Yeah, and now it seems much more reliant on, we're building towards this big other crossover event because we need to raise people's expectations again.
Yeah, it's a weird, like, I don't know if catch-22 is the right word, but like, it's almost like the post-credits are the only things they feel like matter anymore.
Yeah.
And like, that's the only thing people go in for, and that they just want things to set up other things. But at the same time, this has been the messiest phase since they started. So, like, stuff being set up isn't being resolved, isn't being picked up on. The amount of post-credit stuff we've had now that has just not been resolved, whether it will be down the line is yet to be seen, but... Pause, fuck off. So that sounds like I'm saying pause, fuck off. Pause, fuck off. And so, yeah, it just feels like they're not stopping to make the films good. They just want people to go and wait till after the credits and go, yay, I can't wait for what happens in the next one then. But then it's like just random fucking characters that you never see again. It's fucking Harry Styles or like Scorpion.
It's almost like they're just making a fucking 2-hour cold open.
Yeah, basically.
And then you're waiting for the main event, which is whatever happens in the mid credits and then the post credits. Like they have 2 now. Like they're working with 2, and it's still
2 each time.
Still, it feels disconnected.
It's usually like a funny one and then a setting up one.
Yeah,
I feel like. And this did great with both, because I guess we could talk about the post credits in this one, which did actually feel like it mattered, which is seemingly the Fantastic Four coming through to this universe or something. But it also kind of set up their dynamic as the new Avengers, which was the announcement at the end of the film, and like how they're dealing with it, and like the sort of wider world of the politics of that, which I actually think is quite an interesting story that I don't know how much they're going to go into. The fact that there's kind of 2 Avengers groups now. They're kind of the government mandated one, and then there's like whatever the fuck Sam Wilson and his crew are doing.
It's exactly what they were doing in Civil War, except they're not fighting. They're just getting into legal disputes.
It's Civil War, but it's in the courts.
It's nice that it does that and also sets up the next movie or promotes the next movie. Because
Yeah,
Fantastic
it
Four
actually
is
does.
the next one that's coming out. So
And
it's
it makes
getting you
sense.
excited for that again.
And it's only like, as of recording, it's like next month now. And it was only 2 months after Thunderbolts, so
Yeah.
it feels, like fresh and exciting again. Man, are we back, bro? Are we back?
We're back. More excited for Fantastic Four than Sebastian Stan reading his Marvel Rivals lines for the Thunderbolts promo.
He was hyped for that. Oh my god.
He was so into that.
Good stuff, yeah. I'm back on the Marvel train, man.
We're getting back on it slowly.
I'm getting back on. I'm got 1 foot back on the train. It's leaving the station. So
Haven't
it's
paid
quite
for the ticket.
dangerous.
Haven't actually paid for the ticket. But
Yeah, I'm dodging the ticket instructor. I'm going in the loo, hiding in the luggage rack.
pretending to sleep.
No, you checked mine before, mate. I got on 2 stops ago. You checked it already. Next up, Hurry Up Tomorrow. Not a recommend from me, I'm afraid. I was on an iron, but I think I'm landing on not. I don't think it deserves one.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat as you. If I'm that sort of in 2 minds about it, then it's probably not going to be. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like if it's a recommend, you instantly kind of know.
Right, I mean, yeah, considering the standard of some of the stuff
Yeah.
we give recommends here, like, I don't think it reaches the heights. It was a fun time nonetheless. It's one of those, it's like, it's quite a corny movie that's almost, like, so bad it's good, in a way. Like, it's an enjoyable time, but there's sort of a lot wrong with it. I think, as a film. But just, yeah, it doesn't warrant a recommend, I think. So, yeah, this is the Weeknd's film that he made as a companion piece to his new album of the same name. Great album, by the way. I really enjoyed the album.
Great artist.
Great artist.
Great guy.
Hey, I'm a big fan of The Weeknd. Love The Weeknd. Something I really admire about The Weeknd is how he creates worlds with his albums, and they're very much eras, and each one has a very specific theme and a look, and a visual style. And I like that he does that despite being like the biggest pop star ever.
Yeah.
He could very easily just release albums of just random pop songs strung together, but I like that he takes the time to mold these worlds. He clearly puts a lot of care and thought into the overall aesthetic of an album outside of like the music itself. And so, yeah, this is sort of a big, I guess, probably bucket list item for him to like, make an album film.
Yeah.
And I think it's just got like a bit too big for its britches or something. Like, if this was a string of 5 or 6 music videos based on the singles released from the album and just told the story through that, no one would have blinked an eye. People would have been quite impressed, probably. He's done that sort of stuff before with the After Hours album, Blinding Lights and Save Your Tears, and the music videos for that were all sort of linked, I think, narratively, and the same for Dawn FM. So if you just did the same one, like, it would have made sense. But instead, he's stretched it out into this kind of like oddly surreal film with a very sort of small, short narrative, but stretched out to feature length.
I think it really, really is a very good example of the whole style over substance.
Right, yeah, it definitely is, yeah.
Yeah, in terms of like the actual story of what's going on, very, very simple, quite easy to follow, but there's just all these extra sort of bits that don't really mean anything, don't really add a lot. I don't know who was actually directing, but yeah, really, really liked 2 specific shots in this movie that I kind of saw popping up again and again. It's like the really extreme close-up they've used a whole bunch of times, and the one with the sort of the 360 spinning camera as well, where it just sort of rotates around the, like, both of them over and over again, like multiple times.
Yeah. Yeah, they loved using that one. Yeah, it was just a lot of stuff thrown together and with like an orange filter over it most of the time. I mean, I liked some of the kind of surreal horror dream-like stuff that was going on. There was a scene where he kind of wakes up and there's like no one there, and there's someone crying or whatever, and he goes down. Like, stuff like that was genuinely quite creepy and unsettling, and gave like a great mood and a great vibe, which is a good way to describe a lot of the film. It's a good mood, a good vibe, and they managed to capture that well. So yeah, there's some kind of good stuff here and there, but yeah, it's like I say, that stuff just would have worked in music. Like, you put that stuff in music videos, no one's questioning it. Because music videos are supposed to be wacky and surreal and no laws of physics and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not saying there has to be reasons for it in a film, but I don't know, stuff's got to be kind of tied together, or like, it does feel like they just kind of did every idea they had. Like, where can we do like a crazy scene where I'm out in the street and there's no one there? Let's try and shove that in somewhere because it'll look cool. And hey, it did look cool, but it's like you're sort of watching it like, what the fuck?
Yeah, like
why?
When they've already well established that this movie is just set in just normal, the real world, it becomes a lot harder to tie those kind of ideas into it and make it consistent with everything else that's happening.
Right, yeah. It's just all kind of, it's a dream sequence, I guess. But yeah, so there's sort of 3 main characters in this. There's The Weeknd himself, playing himself. And there's Jenna Ortega's character. I don't remember if she was named or not. And there's Barry Keoghan's character, who The Weeknd's like manager. Here's the thing, right? The Weeknd, great singer.
Great performer on stage.
Great performer on stage, great musical artist. Not great actor when you put him next to like a couple of actual real
established names in Hollywood,
yeah. Yeah, just Jenna Ortega running rings around him in those bedroom scenes, to be honest. Barry Keoghan as well, in those sort of pep talk scenes and the scenes where he's chasing after him. Abel does what he can, I guess. But yeah, it did sort of take me out of it at times.
Yeah, if this had been just 2 hours of him crying, it would have been perfect.
Oh, beautiful.
Because he could do that so well.
He's really good at crying.
He's really good at just sitting there glassy-eyed, looking on the verge of having a breakdown.
Actually, yeah, he was doing quite well at the kind of panic attack scenes, actually. They weren't too bad. It was mostly dialogue.
Yeah, when he was speaking, he had to line deliver.
Yeah, he's not great at line delivery. I think everything else was all right. It was passable. The panicking, the on stage, the like on the bed scared, like all that stuff. You know, he was all right at, but yeah, as soon as he opens that mouth of his and he's not singing, well, you're in for a stilted line delivery.
Who would have thought that someone who's predominantly known for being a music artist and being in music videos would be great at physical performance, and like facial expressions, but not on actual vocal delivery.
Who'd have thought it? Eh?
I do get the feeling that even though this is, at least in the next couple coming years, it's just going to be forgotten about. It's not going to be up for any accolades or awards that matter.
No.
I do get the feeling that it could become like a cult classic kind of movie, just because of how extensive and like huge his fan base is.
Yeah, definitely.
Like eventually down the line, I reckon a lot of them will revisit and be like, it's not as bad as we thought it was, and how we reacted to it to begin with.
Once we're out of all the hype, or whatever the opposite of hype is.
The
pylon.
not controversy, but like...
Yeah, it's not quite that either.
No, yeah.
It is just one where I feel like everyone I've seen has just been like, yeah, it was not great.
Yeah.
But I feel like even if you released it just... You know, like Beyonce did Lemonade? That was like an album film. Like, album films have been done. They're just not often released as if they're like a big feature film. Like, I feel like there's probably people going to see this that like don't really care that much about Weeknd's albums or whatever, probably know the songs, but having the film kind of connected to the album, but it not being super connected, I don't know. Yeah, it just felt like odd. It's just weird that it's being presented as this prestige feature length film when I just don't think it should have been. It's back to that point again. It should have been a series of music videos, a more like an hour-long album film or something, just on his YouTube channel. Maybe like a limited run in some indie cinemas or something. But yeah, I don't know. I think the fact that it's had such a wide release has probably hurt it in terms of its like critical reception, because it just wasn't that.
No, I think it's especially the whole trying to make it a consistent story has kind of hurt it as well.
Yeah, they maybe should have leaned even further into the surrealness. Maybe it just had it like a real fucking trippy film.
Yeah, I think
where like stuff isn't actually going on.
The best thing I think you could do, at least from my perspective, the best thing you could do to make a good album film is just make it like an anthology and get like a different director to listen to one song, make their own short film for that song, and then just compile them all together. Yeah,
interpret it in different ways, have different styles, just make it wacky as shit, make it psychedelic. You know, some of the Weeknd's music verges on psychedelic at certain points. It's got that kind of 80s, like, trippy vibe to it. So yeah, that sort of thing would fit, and just make it all style and no substance, because it's trying to do this like Misery-esque plot line, but it just sort of ends as well. Like, I don't know, yeah, the plot is very strung out and very thin, and like, yeah, it's sort of halfway between these two things. It should have committed one way or the other, I think.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing where, because the plot is so thin, it means it relies much more heavily on the lead actor to carry the rest of it with their performance, which is not something that The Weeknd can do.
No.
Which is why it doesn't work as a whole. Yeah.
I mean, you know, that being said, I did enjoy my time watching it. Didn't hate it. I think there's enough criticisms about it, and I just think it should have been something it wasn't. And that's why it's not a recommend, folks.
Yeah, won't be quick to revisit it.
No, I won't be. I'll listen to the album again. The album's great. I've listened to that a few times. Yeah, it just wasn't needed. But hey ho, you know what? I'm glad he did it, because I bet that was on his bucket list. I bet he was like, I really want to make a film. I really want to do an album and then like make a film of the album.
He said it exactly like that, like Owen Wilson.
Yeah. Wow, I really want to make a film of the album.
I mean, credit where it's due. Like, at least he didn't make another biopic about struggling with addiction.
And... I mean, yeah. At least it wasn't just the Weeknd biopic.
Yeah.
Ooh, I went to see your film. It kind of sucked, but I still enjoyed my night. Hey, hey, hey. Next up, Lilo and Stitch. Ohana means make a film again after like 20 years, but make it shit.
Take everything that we enjoyed about the first one, strip it bare bones, remove characters, everything good, nice that you liked, take it out, throw that to the wayside. Don't need it.
Now, before we get into this one proper, I'd just like to take a moment to make a formal apology to my esteemed co-host to my right here. There's a rumour going round that when we came out of the screening, I turned to you and I said, I liked it.
Yeah,
and I'd like to...
That did happen.
I'd like to just say that I was a different man back then. It was a different time. You know, a lot of time has passed since then. I've done a lot of reflecting. And frankly, I'd like to retract that statement. I was delirious, confused, I was bamboozled, and I was drunk on wholesome scenes between Lilo and Stitch themselves, the characters. The musical swells in this film gave me feelings that I did not consent to. They made me think these moments were important, but they weren't, and I'd like to formally apologise. I'm sorry, and I hope you can forgive me.
No, it's fine. We all get manipulated from time to time, say stupid things that we regret.
Yeah. So it's not a recommend.
No,
it's not.
No, not for the Disney machine. Sorry.
Fuck
you had
the
your
Disney machine.
flowers. You had your flowers with Thunderbolts, and now we
Yeah.
get to
Now we've got to trash you a bit.
Yeah, regular scheduled programming of Disney does a bad thing.
Yeah, we watched the OG Lilo and Stitch for the channel a few days before seeing this.
Yeah, it wasn't long before seeing it.
Bloody hell, the difference is stark. Yeah, this doesn't work. It doesn't work, man.
It's actually, I think, inexcusable the way this movie is. For a company as big and as widespread with as much money and resources as Disney has, to produce a film that I remember coming out and saying, there are times in this looks like a Nickelodeon channel like TV movie.
They should have just put it on Disney Plus.
Yeah, it felt unfinished. They weren't done with it, and then they just threw it out into the cinemas and said, "We've got a fucking deadline to meet.
They hit the deadline.
Whatever, wherever you're at, just put it out."
Fuck it. There's just some scenes where Stitch is just like unrendered.
He's not even there.
They're just the tennis ball's still there.
Oh
my God, Stitch, I love you.
You can't say that. They didn't use a tennis ball.
Oh no.
I remember seeing a thing. It popped up on my feed today, specifically him mentioning like. I think the director mentioning like you can't get that kind of emotion out of like people acting beside a tennis ball and a stick.
Oh.
So there was a puppet they used.
All right, fair enough. I guess.
And also a dog.
Oh, they actually used a real dog.
They used
for
a
it
real
to, like,
dog. Which, fun fact, is in the movie.
Oh.
There's the bit where Stitch sees everyone surfing on the beach.
Right.
There's like a dog on one of the boards, and that's the dog that doubled for Stitch in a lot of the scenes.
Oh, it wasn't even blue.
Wasn't even blue.
Where did we begin?
Well, it's hard to pick anywhere because this movie is so devoid of anything that there's nothing to latch onto.
They made Jumbo the villain. That's where I'll begin.
Yeah, taking away one of your main characters' redemption stories, redemption narratives of, in the end, they start to understand where other people are coming from and like the concept of family and togetherness. And just throwing it all to the wayside and saying, no, I was always about destruction and villainy.
Yeah. It felt weird that just Pleakley stayed at the end.
Yeah,
it was so weird. Yeah, like you say, it feels unfinished also in the way that it just feels like scenes was stitched together, ironically. Lines cut, random scenes omitted that were important. There was beats that were hit in the original that they tried to hit again here and didn't because the narrative is so restructured and like made kind of needlessly cluttered with extra characters and a couple of subplots that weren't in the original, just to, I guess, to beef it out and make it a more substantial runtime for like a big release.
Yeah.
I don't know, like it just, there was so much, it just felt so much more cluttered than the original. The original is such a concise story and it's so like well told, well structured. This one's just a fucking mess. For
what is supposed to be a comedy movie, to not have I don't think a single joke lands.
Listen, I know I just retracted my statements earlier that there was anything good about this, but I did think some of the Bleakley, this film is Bleakley. The Pleakley and Jumbo stuff, because it was Zach Galifianakis and Billy Magnussen, because they're just competent comedic actors. Some of that stuff managed to land, their performance-wise.
I don't think the jokes themselves did, but I was going to say...
They sold the physicality, I think.
Yes, the physicality of it. Was it Billy Magnussen?
Billy Magnussen, I think.
Played Pleakley. Reminded me a lot of the boyfriend character from Aliens in the Attic.
Oh, yeah,
Who is like the standout performer in that movie with
Yeah.
such a great physical kind of performance.
It was that sort of vibe. Yeah, I sort of like the getting used to the human skin and stuff like that. Like, but it's also that they stripped away some of the charm of the old one in that they dress up and like are not recognized, even though they're very, very obviously aliens. But I guess, like, in fairness, that kind of gag doesn't really work in real life.
When they're trying to make it a little bit more grounded because they're making it a live action film, so we're like, okay, we kind of have to stick a bit more closely to the rules of reality with this. Obviously, people would not buy those disguises that they had,
Right.
which, like, fair enough. There is like one thing with that I will defend the movie on when we get to it, but for the most part, it's why it isn't as charming and isn't as funny is because they're so constrained by trying to keep it grounded within reality that a lot of the cartoonishness is lost,
Right.
and that's what makes the first one so fun.
Yeah, exactly. But they don't even commit all the way to doing that. Like, there's some scenes here, action sequences that are trying to do the cartoon thing, but they're real life. So it's like, fucking make your mind up, guys. Do you want to go wacky or do you not? There's bits where there's a scene that comes to mind where they're chasing Stitch around the house. I think it's the night Nani's like, you need to take him back tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like, the fridge smacks her in the face. Like, there's sequences like that where it's like, it's almost cartoony slapstick, but then it's like, doesn't quite land because it's real life and they're trying to do a grounded thing. And it's like where, like, you haven't committed either way. It's like there was 3 different directors trying to make this film or something.
It's like, yeah, cartoonish pain is funny. Real pain that you can relate to is less funny because you know what that feels like.
Yeah. I know what it's like to get smacked in the face by a fridge door.
Sucks.
So stop doing that.
Stop it.
Stop
I mean,
it.
it's funny for me. It's funny for the person doing it.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just trying to, like, get my cheese in the night and you're there like...
Well, maybe that'll teach you a lesson for raiding the fridge when you shouldn't be doing it. The main discourse I have seen with this, and this is where I will defend the film to an extent,
Here we go, folks.
is people really, really do not like the tweaks they made to the ending.
The Tweakleys.
The tweakleys they made to the ending, people do not like it because most of them, I think, are looking at this movie purely on its surface level, taking everything at face value. So the arguments I've seen are that the movie ruins Nani's character by allowing Lilo to go with the Child Protective Services in the end and be effectively rehomed, and like, oh, that kind of defeats the whole message of the original of like the Ohana means family and family means no one gets left behind. I kind of like the tweak they made in this one.
The Tweakly
They made in this one, the change. Because they took that more grounded route. You could not do the original ending of everything is just fixed overnight. The original movie is everything resolves itself because a spaceship crashes into the ocean. Those two things do not correlate at all.
Everyone's like rebuilds the house at the end.
Yeah.
And it just gets rebuilt in 2 minutes. Like,
They never explain how they solve their monetary issues of her not having a stable job, or like how they got the funds to fix their entire house. And so that's why I think the new one's okay, because I mean, everyone keeps saying, oh, she abandons her. She doesn't. The subtext of this movie, in fact, it's not even subtext because it's kind of plainly stated, is that the best option for her was to be rehomed, but with people they knew.
yeah.
People that were there, essentially their extended family. It's more of a long-term thing. Like, Nani goes off to college to learn how to do marine biology, which means in the future she'll have a stable job with a stable source of income. And then we can start the discussion of them getting custody back to Nani. But you can't just do that, an ending of, oh, everything's fine, when you're trying to ground it in, like, the laws and the realities of our world.
Yeah, it's a more grounded thing, which is what they were trying to do. But I think it's quite jarring because, like we say, there is this weird disconnect between whether it's grounded or cartoony, unrealistic stuff, because it just has like such a mix of both. Yeah, it's hard to do this like hard-hitting emotional ending when you just had the most ridiculous fucking 90 minutes we've ever seen. So I think logically, plot-wise, that ending works. I think they just probably didn't sell it well enough because the movie just isn't structured well enough.
No, it almost seems like they took either like half of the team from the original, or half like a new team, or they just had a team of people that knew how to do animation well and told them to make like a live action movie. That's why it's so tonally all over the place.
Yeah.
It's because they're so used to doing one thing and then they're just like, here, do this other thing.
I'd also like to point out the weird sexual tension between Cobra and the Empress alien.
Yeah, the councilwoman, the Grand Councilwoman.
What the fuck was that about? The way they looked at each other. My God. It's as if they tried to do the bit at the end of the original, but they just cut the joke out.
They took out the
Yeah,
Roswell joke.
line.
It seemed like they were going to do that and it just didn't make the final cut.
Yeah, like, and they just sort of have a weird exchange, and it's like, are we supposed to get it from that? It just looked like he wanted to fuck her.
Especially weird, why did they cut out the whole, like, official adoption thing as well?
Yeah.
Where, like, the ending happens of Stitch getting to stay because they're like, oh, you're a stickler for the rules. Lilo actually paid $2 to adopt Stitch and has the paperwork for it. You have to abide by this.
Yeah, the logic this time was just, oh yeah, I'll exile him to this planet specifically so you can keep him, I guess.
Yeah, like, she changes her mind because Cobra goes up and is like, trust me, bro.
Yeah.
No, I won't tell anyone, trust me.
Well, I saw someone point out that it very much seemed like they added Cobra in after.
Like he wasn't in it originally, and maybe they did like test screenings.
Well, because there was the social worker and him.
Yeah.
Why the fuck was that needed? Like, it made sense for him to be both those things. So it feels like they just did the social worker, and then there was backlash. Because I think he like wasn't in the first trailer or something.
I can imagine, yeah, like they did test screenings, and people were like, "Where the fuck is he? You already took out Gantu. Where the fuck is Cobra?"
It's also that I think if you take him out, nothing changes in this one specifically. I think if he's just not there, I don't think anything changes as far as I can tell.
It's weird as well to think that, like, I don't know if they shot on location. Like,
I don't know if they shot Stitch in this one.
They should have
shot Stitch.
They shot at him. Don't know if they hit him, but I don't know if they shot it at like on location and it was actually like filmed in Hawaii.
Couldn't tell you.
But this movie feels less Hawaiian. It felt like that was less of a big deal than it was in like. The original movie feels more like an exploration of and a celebration of that culture. And in this one, it's just kind of an afterthought. It's there because the original was. Yeah, definitely. It is. It's such a rich, beautiful culture that, the first film celebrates so well. This one, it's like an afterthought. It's like it just happens to be where it's set. Like as if it's just set in any old city. It's less an identity of like the characters in it, I think. They didn't really go full in on anything. Everything's half-baked. It's sort of, this is probably 15 to 20% of a film at best. That's as far as they got, and then they said put it out. They got bored. Yeah, I actually don't want to finish this one. Like, did you remember to put like all the Hawaiian culture stuff in there? Oh, sorry, I forgot. Forgot. Is it set in Hawaii? Oh my god. I thought it was just a random beach. What? It's set in Hawaii! Did you... Is this movie supposed to be set in Hawaii? I don't know, Jeff. I don't know, Jeff. Is it set in Hawaii? Is it? I must have missed that. Oh, what a shit show. Yeah, what a shit show, eh? But oh well, I guess we'll just have to move on. Yeah, hopefully the next one will be good. Attempt the fucking 25 or whatever one. It's fucking... What did we talk about recently? Snow White. It's the same shit. It's just nostalgia bait. It's just making a bit of dollar. Quite frankly, I'd buy into the conspiracy that they're bad on purpose. Yeah. Gets people talking. It'll be very, very funny to see if DreamWorks can nail it in one attempt what Disney has never been able to do in like fucking 50. I'm scared. Wouldn't it be funny if that was good? Yeah. Wouldn't it be funny if How to Train Your Dragon live action was actually good? That would be the funniest thing ever. Next up, Final Destination Bloodlines. There's only one bloodline. That's the Roman Reigns bloodline. Oh, but this film wasn't about them. No, it should have been. Obviously, you probably went in thinking it was going to be. I did, yeah. I thought I was going to see all my favourites die in unexpected ways. WWE Final Destination, where they all get knocked out in like increasingly crazy ways. They all lose matches in incredibly really bizarre circumstances. A recommend from me, I suppose. I think so, yeah. Yeah, not wrong with it. I think it's one of those ones where I think we're probably going to have to keep it short and sweet because there's not a lot to say about the movie itself because it's a Final Destination movie. It gives you what you want. There's plenty of creative, cool scenes in here, and I enjoyed every single one of them. Yeah, no one is going into one of these movies for, the rich characters, the extensive lore, like the beautifully crafted environments and settings.
Yeah.
You're going in to see the fun way that people die, and that it delivers. You get that.
It's the Rube Goldberg machine. The Rube Goldberg.
The
Rube
the Goldbergs
The
machine.
Rude Goldberg
The Bill
machine.
Goldberg machine. Of death.
Yeah, I think I'd only seen maybe the first 3, but like we say, it's not the kind of series you need to have seen loads of.
No, it's the same movie multiple times,
Yeah.
but just with changing how they die.
Yeah, and I quite like the. I'm assuming it's a concept they haven't used before. The kind of like killing of the offspring and the branches of the family.
Yeah,
I thought that was
slight twist
quite
on
creative.
it.
Yeah, it was a bit of a different vibe to it. Yeah, a bit of a sort of soft reboot maybe of the franchise. Although there was a couple of recurring characters, was there, or mentions of people?
There was mentions and like references to other stuff that had happened in the other movies.
Yeah, I have nothing like constructive to say.
No.
It was just a really good time. Like, if you like this shit, go see it because it was great.
Yeah, it's like this and Saw are the two
Right.
ones I think of where you go, you're not in it for like an actual movie. You're in it for the very specific gimmick that it heavily relies upon.
Yeah.
And if they do that well, then like you're happy coming out of it.
I also like that it's very self-aware at this point.
Yeah.
And really plays with your expectations a lot. And there's a lot of very like it plays it quite comedically as well. Some of the deaths even because it kind of knows it's a little wink and a nod, isn't it? Sometimes that it's like this is what you're here for, innit? This is what you're here for. Oh, nope, it's not that one. It's not that. Oh. Nope, not quite. Not quite. All right, here he goes. Nope, and it just kind of does that all through the film because you just know at some point. And I think it's I think all the films do it where they kind of know who's next, right? Or they eventually figure it out. And
Yeah,
so
they
try and
realize
stop
there's
it
some
and-
kind of pattern. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's always kind of who's going to be next, and then it's like they play with your expectations here in a clever way, and I liked how comedic it was at times. I think the opening sequence was fantastic. It's so terrifying.
Yeah, like the premonition sequences they do are always like
They're kind of the most elaborate.
like show-stopping elaborate sequences that kind of go on and then set the tone for everything else that comes after.
And the fact that this one was like high up in a tower with only like one exit kind of tapped into some of my fears personally of being up very, very high. The fucking dance floor they were on with the glass, like I'd actually rather die than go on one of those. I don't think I would actually step on it. I wouldn't go up the tower in the first place, to be quite frank.
No, terrible idea. Where would you rank, I mean, of the ones you've seen, premonition sequences, where would you rank this one?
Okay, so what have we got? First 3. First one's the plane.
Yeah, Flight
Classic.
180 for the first one.
The second one, the logs.
The road, the highway with the logging truck.
Third one's roller coaster.
Roller coaster.
I remember the log one every time I see logs on a truck.
I think that's the
I'm going
iconic
number
one at this point.
I'm going number 1 logs. Probably number 2 roller coaster and 3 plane. The new one I'm going to slot right in. I don't remember the roller coaster one that much, but I'm probably going to slot this one right in above it. I think it's not quite the log one because I'm not going to be up towers as much as I see logs. But I just thought it was really beautifully done and very terrifying.
Yeah, I think the roller coaster one. There's only so much you can do with a roller coaster. A lot of it is just people falling off and hitting stuff.
Yeah.
There's a lot more like creativity and elaborate shit and weird stuff going on with this new one.
Yeah.
It's the same with some of the other ones. Like I think the fourth one is
there a swimming pool one?
it's one of the deaths in the fourth one, but it's not the premonition is at like a NASCAR like stock car racing event, and then the fifth one is like a big suspension bridge. The one downside to these movies is their over-reliance on CGI gore, because it just does not hold up to practical.
Right.
And it just looks silly. I don't think any of the deaths have been like convincing, which I guess ties into the whole like ridiculous nature of these movies that
I think it works
taken too seriously.
Yeah, it works better later on in the more slapsticky ones, maybe. Whereas I feel like the first couple, at least, were kind of taking it a bit more seriously and being a bit darker. Yeah.
If you had to pick a highlight death in this movie, what's the best one?
I might go barbecue because I liked how it did that whole thing. Like I was saying, there was the misdirects, of like who had the shard of glass in
Yeah.
the cup. Like there was all these different, and you didn't quite know what was going to happen, and the fact that you thought they'd solved it by moving something, but that just caused something else. And it's like I like the elaborateness of it and how long it took to get there as well. Yeah,
It was very good the way they set it up. Of like it wasn't one specific thing of all of the things they showed. It ended up being all of them together in combination that ended up sort of putting all together. And
yeah. It was really well constructed. What was yours?
I think just because of how stupid it is, it's got to be the MRI machine.
Yeah, that was,
I
that was
don't.
crazy.
Do they? I feel like no magnet sort of becomes that powerful.
I think they do. I think that's why you have to like leave the room and stuff. I think you have to take.
I know you have to leave the. I thought it was more to do with like the radiation of it. And
No, that's their whole thing, isn't it? That they're like a massive magnet, basically, or something. Hey, I ain't no doctor. Well, it did that thing where it like got like it was like full power, whatever. They're probably like not built to go
I assume
ever
they're not
that
doing
far
it
up.
in the movie where it's like steps away from ripping the whole building in half.
Yeah,
But,
but it somehow got like extra charged up or something
Yeah,
from his phone
yeah.
or something. That's probably the unrealistic bit, but yeah.
Yeah, I think the one thing, if they make any more of these, the one thing it's missing, if someone literally dies by being hit by a red herring, then it'll be the most on the nose thing they could possibly do.
And if they hit it on the nose as well.
Yeah,
If they die by a red herring on the nose.
red herring bites them on the nose and kills them.
Let us in that writer's room right now, please. Final destination. Fucking 12 or whatever we're on. Next up, The Assessment. This is a recommend from me. And it is also, ladies and gentlemen, my best of the month.
We did it. We fucking made it. It's been a fucking dry one, but we got there.
This was an unexpectedly brilliant film starring Elizabeth Olsen, Himesh Patel, and Alicia Vikander, among some other familiar faces here in smaller roles. It was just one of those. I kind of liked the look of the premise. I liked the look of the cast. Gave it a go and was just unexpectedly blown away by this. Like, it was so brilliant. And really quite up my street, I think. It's set in a near future where to become a parent, you have to go through this assessment first to, figure out whether you're good enough to have a child. It's set against the backdrop of kind of like a world that's been ravaged by environmental damage. Yeah. It's a bit of a statement on overpopulation and lack of resources and global warming and like where things are going in regards to that sort of stuff. But the story is very much a very character-driven, emotional piece with that kind of as the setting more than kind of the message. So Elizabeth Olsen and Himesh Patel play the couple here who are going through the assessment. Alicia Vikander is their assessor and essentially acts as their child for a week, which is obviously a very strange
premise
dynamic.
Yeah.
And it makes for some surreal and uncanny weird scenes. The film overall kind of gave me a bit of a Lanthimos vibe, which is probably why I gravitated towards it so well. Or even like it felt a bit Ex Machina-esque, not just because Alicia Vikander was there, but mostly because of that. Elizabeth Olsen and Alicia Vikander's performances here particularly were incredible. Not to disparage Himesh, he was great as always, but the dynamic that kind of forms between them, because her sort of kid character ends up preferring the dad more. It makes for these kind of weird, like quite genuine, sweet moments at times until you like remember that this is a grown woman pretending to be a child, and the characters sort of remember that as well. But she's causing trouble for them across the week. It just makes for some real uncomfortable viewing at times, which, as you guys know, is something I quite enjoy. I like putting myself through these trials and tribulations. But yeah, just overall vibe of this film was great. It had a bit of a Black Mirror thing with the kind of near future technology vibe, but it had a sort of surreal psychological thriller about it as well because of the awkward uncomfortableness, the intense nature of this premise. I'm just using a lot of adjectives now, but watch this film. It's really, really good. I really wasn't expecting to like it as much. I think it's very underrated. I haven't heard anyone post to talk about this or anything like that, but check it out.
Because I think it's all about the fucking adult baby fetish.
Right. Which, there's hints of that. There is some strange sort of incesty vibes at certain points.
Anything for you, Elizabeth?
Anything for you, Elizabeth? Mommy. I can relate to this film because I also call Elizabeth Olsen Mommy. Great stuff. Psychological, sci-fi, weird.
Checks all the boxes.
Checks all the boxes.
This was just a box ticking exercise.
Did I pass the assessment, everyone?
No baby for you.
No baby for you. Next up, Daredevil, Born Again. This is a recommend for me.
This is a recommend for me, and you know what? I'd say this is also my favourite thing from the month. Oh, stop now. Come on. We've had enough gun violence, thank you. Enough of that.
It's not fucking...
Oh, he's had an accident. Oh, he's come back.
Born Again.
Ah.
Yeah, this shit was fire, bro.
Yeah, especially
Sorry
for
for talking like that.
Yeah. Especially for me, someone who never watched the original Netflix run of Daredevil.
Yeah, so interesting that we kind of came into this with two different mindsets almost.
Yeah.
Like, I watched a lot of the Netflix stuff back in the day, the Marvel, Daredevil, Jessica Jones, all that malarkey going on, but you never touched any of that. And so this was kind of your first exposure to Charlie Cox's Daredevil.
Yeah, first proper exposure, because like obviously he had the little cameo in Spider-Man.
Oh, of course, he's been around.
Appears briefly in She-Hulk, but like this is
we don't talk about She-Hulk.
Yeah, this is proper, like full on him doing Daredevil again.
And thank God, because the show is called Daredevil, so if he wasn't in it...
If he wasn't in it, I'd be fucking pissed. I mean, he isn't in it for a good chunk of the first act.
No, to be fair, a lot of it's Matt Murdock born again. Which I'm happy with, because I love Matt Murdock as a character. Daredevil is contender for favourite superhero of all time for me in general. And I love Charlie Cox's portrayal. I love his version of Daredevil. He's kind of got the Hugh Jackman thing for me now. I think I'm not going to accept anyone else as Daredevil from now on. I think he is Daredevil now.
Yeah, even though he wasn't like the originator.
No.
It's not who does it first, it's who does it best.
Exactly. He's not the first to play.
Fucking far surpassed Ben Affleck.
I mean, it's no competition. I just love it. And I think it managed to capture a similar vibe to the older stuff while making it feel a bit fresh. It was a bit sort of MCU-ified, but it was definitely on the kind of darker side of things. A bit more grounded, a bit more serious, which is kind of Daredevil's whole vibe. You know, he's street level as a character. Deals in the politics and the law rather than kind of spacey cosmic shit. So yeah, I think they managed to nail the vibe here.
Yeah, it's going to be weird to think of like how much crossing over they do, because I think part of the aesthetic that really sells Daredevil is like the really grimy, dark, violent, like bloody action of it. And then you have other characters from other properties showing up. Like you have Kamala Khan's father in this. When Miss Marvel was very like bright and colourful and way more on like the MCU-ified spectrum.
Yeah. Again, it's kind of like the Thunderbolts thing where the Easter eggs aren't super blatant or whatever, but it's like, if you know, you know. It connects it to the outside world without it becoming too messy or too like you have to do your homework before watching it. It's a similar thing to the Thunderbolts where it feels dark and weighty in itself, but still manages to have those little references that kind of reward you if you've been around for a while and know them.
Very, very funny as well that, sorry to bring She-Hulk up again, where like that whole series was kind of based around the courtroom stuff for the most part. It's almost like She-Hulk, the courtroom stuff was the main focus, and like everything else with like the whatever villains they set up, and that was the B stuff. It's reversed here. This is more about him rediscovering his like reason to be a vigilante, to be Daredevil again, and the courtroom stuff ties into that. And it like supplements that, but they somehow they did a much better job of selling the importance of the courtroom stuff than She-Hulk did when that was their main focus.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a great story about him realizing, you know, trying to give up the mantle of Daredevil because it gets people killed that he loves. Yeah, and kind of discovering that the law just doesn't work sometimes. You know, people slip through the cracks. The system just doesn't work occasionally, and sometimes you've got to get out there with your batons and jump on some roofs. It's just got to be done. It's got to be done. They nailed kind of both sides of it here. And the fact that they were very patient with his comeback as Daredevil himself made the moment that he dons that cowl once more. It made that so much more rewarding, I think, to kind of see the full costume again. You know, even though we see it in episode 1, but that's just setting up him hanging up the mask, giving it up. We get full Matt Murdock for a little while, and then it slowly builds back up, and it's so rewarding to kind of see him become established as the Daredevil we all know and love again, and just makes the rest of the series so like satisfying because you're like, yeah.
I think you especially appreciate like all the ground level stuff, especially with us having watched this not too far apart from seeing Thunderbolts, where like the big threat to New York City in Thunderbolts was the city is being engulfed by like an all-encompassing void, and then the threat in Daredevil is we passed a law so vigilantism is illegal. Yeah. That's the main threat, is like the law and like the crooked cops gunning vigilantes down in the street.
Yeah, exactly.
And it just makes you appreciate like the lower level, but then putting more of like an importance to it, even though it's so much more like down to earth and independent of them.
Yeah, the stakes felt high, I think because they were more personal and close to home. I also quite liked they were sort of somewhere in between season arcs and random episodes. Like the bank episode, for example, kind of gave us a flavor of like what a weekly like Adventure of the Week Daredevil show would kind of look like. It kind of made me wish we got a bit of that. I don't know if that was more what they were planning originally, because I know this was retooled and shaped a lot in production. I think they basically refilmed and rewrote a lot of it after, I don't know, backlash from testing screenings or whatever, or to work with the wider, because I know they retooled the MCU in the wake of the Jonathan Majors controversy and all that stuff. So I think it got caught up in a lot of that and had to be retooled. But I quite like that kind of little taste of like a little self-contained story in the middle of the series. We kind of had the first half of the series with the White Tiger arc, second half where he reconnects with Wilson and the Punisher turns up and stuff. But there was this nice kind of rounded episode in the middle of like he just sort of stops a bank robbery, which I just think was so cool. It was such a random like adventure. It made me want a show where we just see him just go and doing his random missions.
Well, I think just having it as like a bottle in the middle is just, it makes you appreciate it more. It's just a nice breather to kind of, we're ramping up tension, giving you a moment to process everything that's happened, and then we're coming back to it and seeing how it all pans out. I'd say pretty assuredly after seeing this, Vincent D'Onofrio's portrayal of Kingpin, by and large, the best villain MCU's ever had.
I mean, yeah, he's a highlight of the older stuff. I know he's been in a couple of things, Hawkeye, Echo.
I think Echo. I didn't watch Echo. I watched. He's briefly in Hawkeye.
He's been showing up in a lot of the New York-based street level stuff generally. What a presence. What a presence.
He's so good. I know a lot of people complain that MCU's had like a villain problem for a long time, but you think about the ones that did work and how good they were. You think about like Loki in the first Avengers movie, Killmonger in Black Panther, Thanos. Like, they've had some good villains, but I think just his portrayal of it stands like head and shoulders above everyone else.
Yeah, yeah. He manages to sell what he's doing the most. And I think because he's not a fantastical, superpowered maniac or anything, they don't super go into it, but I think he's generally quite strong and bulky. They very sparingly use it, I think.
Yeah.
But there's moments where he can just fucking crush someone's head.
He can like brutalize you.
Yeah, yeah. Like, he can do these really violent acts that take a lot of great physical strength. So it's sort of like, I think vaguely established he's maybe a bit stronger than your average man. But it's used sparingly and it makes it so impactful. And the fact that just most episodes, all he needs is a scowl and a gruff voice and a strong stance to like intimidate you. It's his
charisma is his main power. It's the fact that he's managed to manipulate his way into office, into a seat of authority, and he now controls most of New York City because he's the mayor. I feel like that's more frightening than like an alien that can kill everyone in like one snap. The
political power. It's a powerful thing to have. I mean, look at who's running the bloody country over there in America.
Yeah, there's a lot of mirroring going on with this series, but it works.
It works well. Enjoyed this. Great comeback for my boy. Can't wait to see more. I know they're filming season 2 right now, and I believe we're getting Jessica Jones back in season 2. So I'm excited to see Kristen Ritter back at it again. I liked her Jessica Jones portrayal. Yeah, I'm just happy to see these Defenders back, man. I'm the Defenders' strongest soldier.
Even Iron Fist?
Listen, if he comes back in season 2, I'll scream.
I'll pop.
I'm not
Pop the
joking.
boys.
Because I liked him as a character, but not his show.
Yeah.
When he was in the other shows, when they were crossing over, he was great. I'm quite nostalgic for all that old Netflix stuff, and I'm glad they canonized it all again, and are bringing them all back in. I'm glad to see him back. Good job, guys. Wahayyy.
Woohoo!
Gotta start saying that more. Good job, guys. Wahayyy.
Yippee!
Woohoo.
Fantastic.
Oh, absolutely brilliant.
That's stellar. That's a stellar performance.
Oh, top job. Top banana.
That's cracking, that is.
Cracking Daredevil series, Gromit. Next up, Mongrel.
What'd you fucking call me? We'll do it so well, and then you had to fucking ruin it by being mean, by being nasty, by being unfair, to be honest.
You shouldn't have said that about Agent Pleakley. I cut it out, but what he said was horrendous.
I don't give a fuck about piece of shit, Lee.
This is not a recommend from me, unfortunately.
Oh, but you love dog movies.
I know. But this was a sad dog movie.
Yeah.
Which, again, I usually like. Listen, you guys know me. I love an emotional film. I love a film that makes me feel like an empty husk of a man when I come out of that cinema. But this film made me feel that in all the wrong ways. It just is so fucking bleak and offers no kind of hope or reason or message. I don't know. So it's a film about migrant care workers, already a sort of difficult subject. Yeah, just the everyday jobs of these migrant workers that are just trying to make ends meet and, looking after disabled people and elderly people. Yeah, sort of how difficult their day can be. And this film really doesn't shy away from that, which is something I admire about it. There's a lot of very difficult scenes to sit through in this, but deliberately so. But I think, I don't know, it just made me feel uncomfortable. It sort of counts as slow cinema in that, like, it's not plot driven at all. It's very character driven. There's a lot of very extended shots here. It really makes you sit with the feelings of these characters or the tone of the scene or like what the character's up to. There's just straight up scenes of him giving the person he's caring for like a hand bath. Just, yeah, these kind of extended sequences that just really make you sit with this concept and this part of the world and the lives of these people. It's something I admire films being able to do. It's something I quite enjoy from films that let things breathe and take the time with it and have patience, and it makes certain things down the line more impactful. But this film just didn't seem to quite get to the impactful bit, which is like what I'm always waiting for. There's a sort of extended dog metaphor here, hence the title, Mongrel, Stray Dog. Drawing a parallel there with how people with disabilities that need cared for and can't look after themselves, or elderly people, how they're seen by society at large, how they're often abandoned and just seen as lesser. So there's the parallel there with like the stray dogs. The ending shot of this film is a beautiful shot of a three-legged dog, and it just kind of like says it all, I guess. But it doesn't have the build-up to kind of make the impact that I think it wanted to. I think it struggles. It has way more emphasis on the slower, bleaker parts and doesn't pay any of it off, and just leaves you feeling sort of sad and empty without having any sort of resolution or reason to it. I go into a lot of these films wanting to kind of understand things about myself or process my own emotions. That's why I'm kind of drawn to these things. I think it helps me understand where I'm at in life sometimes, and just, this one didn't do any of that for me. I didn't get any of that out of it that I usually would get out of, a film that tackles a difficult subject like this. So unfortunately, I think there was some interesting moments here. I liked the sort of extended metaphor, but my God, it's bleak. And it leans a little too heavy on the sad side of things here.
Yeah, but it's got not enough to balance it out with. I guess it gets muddied a little bit in what they're trying to achieve, and
it's almost like it's like misery porn in a way. I think is a term for this sort of thing. It's just, look at how disgusting this is to do. Look at how difficult this person's day is, without having any sort of like, oh, but what a noble job it is, or like it doesn't really go into any of that sort of thing. It's just like this guy's having a shit fucking time right now, and we're gonna watch him struggle. So yeah, I think it didn't quite do what it was trying to do, and I didn't get out of it what I wanted to get out of it. So yeah, that's why it's landed in not a recommend for me.
Next up, The Last of Us Season 2. We made it. 2. We're not done yet. We're not done yet. There's definitely going to be a third one. It's got to be. I'd say right off the bat, recommend from me. Controversial kind of season, which I knew it would be because the game that it's based on, The Last of Us Part 2, had a very controversial release that a lot of people were very upset about. But that I ended up really liking. In fact, maybe even more than the first one. And I think the second season of the show here does it justice. One of my favourite things about watching this series so far has been how faithfully they have recreated a lot of the settings, the scenarios, a lot of very specific things that happen that you play through in the game. You can see exactly when they happen in the show. Like, they're very identifiable in their look, which is an interesting kind of concept for someone like me watching this, who did play the game, in that you can kind of tell when certain moments are coming up because you're like, I recognize this place. This is where this specific thing happens.
Doing the Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah, it's like, oh, that's the dilapidated building. So Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey are both back. A lot more sort of fractured in their relationship based on what happened at the end of the first one and how that's kind of come into play throughout the screen time they share throughout this season. It's much more heavily carried by Bella Ramsey this time around because, spoiler alert, Pedro Pascal's character Joel killed off very early in the season. In line with the game, a big part of why people didn't like the game is because he's very unceremoniously killed off.
Well, you're playing as him, and then he's killed off, and then you just have to watch the rest of the game. You can't play it.
You can't play it anymore. It's just an extended cutscene. Yeah, I remember a big thing about the game coming out is that I think it was specifically like a disgruntled worker at the studio leaked the story before the game's release, and that was part of the whole controversy. But people saw it and were like, I can't believe they just kill him off like right off the bat, and he's just not there anymore. When he was such a big part of the first one, and I think, were you not like paying attention when you played the first game? I'd understand it if it were like a more of a like an Uncharted kind of thing, where it's more about the adventure and the mystery and all of that. But it, like, The Last of Us is a world that was designed for you to never be comfortable and like for no one ever to be safe. It's miserable a lot of the time, and I think that falls well into it, and it's done for like a storytelling reason that kind of comes full circle at the end. We don't get to the end in this season because I think there is a lot more content in the second game than there is in the first one. So it's going to be at least 2 seasons. I'm guessing it's going to be 2 seasons in total that cover everything in this one, because we sort of end season 2 roughly around the halfway point. Bella Ramsey is great again, despite what a lot of people online will tell you. Really, really good performance, and especially having to now carry the burden of carrying a show that was so heavily reliant on the dynamic between 2 leads, and now being the one from that to survive, and being sort of the only main recognizable tie to that first season that we have left. It's like, it's a lot of weight to carry, and I think they do it well. There's some new additions this time around to the cast. Specifically, I think Isabella Merced as Dina and Caitlin Dever as Abby do great jobs as new characters. I know a lot of people don't like Abby because of specific thing that she did that I've just talked about, but it's kind of a series that makes you question like how much we can forgive someone, because as we've seen in the previous season, Joel is not exactly like a perfect example, shining example of humanity himself. He's done a lot of bad things. He does a lot of bad things throughout that season, and this sort of sets up this whole circular revenge narrative that takes place, which will eventually resolve itself once season 3 comes along. I think a lot of people just got attached to Joel as a character and didn't like the fact that he was taken away so suddenly and without like a proper send-off. But that's just the world that they designed. It wasn't designed to give you everything you wanted. Some stuff just remains unresolved, and that's what happens in real life. Sometimes, people are taken from us and there's stuff that was left unsaid, left unfinished, and they do a great job throughout the season of sort of portraying that concept of, you never know how much time you have left with someone, so is it best to make an effort to, get over your animosity and repair your relationships, because they could just go at any minute. You don't know. Yeah, I'm very excited for season 3. I know they're going to have to do another big change of perspective based on how the game goes.
Not another one.
It's going to be another one, which they tease at the end. But yeah, I think, again, like, action sequences are fantastic. The makeup designs of, like, the infected are excellent again. One of my favourite portrayal of zombies in any media, just because it's so different to anything else you've seen. And nice little treat along the way, Jeffrey Wright appearance as well.
Oh.
And will assumedly show up more in season 3 as well. So yeah, big thumbs up. I don't care what anyone says about Bella Ramsey. It was weird when people were criticizing them mostly for their appearance when the first season came along, because, like, brother, you're like criticizing someone that is canonically like a 15-year-old for not being conventionally attractive, and it's
weird.
It's still weird now. It's still weird now.
Yeah. And last up, Magic Farm. It's a wonderful farm where everything's magic and we go on adventures together.
I hope the pigs don't talk, because they'd end up setting up a weird, like, dictatorship regime.
I've got some bad news. This is a recommend from me. This film is quite a grower, in that when I saw it and right immediately after, I was kind of like, yeah, that was good, I think. It was alright. But then the more time has passed and the more it's just kept showing up in my brain, and I'm just like, God, yeah, I think that was actually really good. I think that was really good. And I think it's because it's such a unique film. I've never really seen anything like this. It's about a documentary crew that are sort of akin to kind of Vice, or like a Louis Theroux style thing, where it's like they find kind of wacky, weird people and make documentary episodes about them. And they go to Argentina to track down this wacky singer guy. And they end up going to the wrong town, and they realize they have to construct something. They at least have to make a documentary about something. And so they just sort of employ the people of this village in Argentina to kind of like create this weird fake dance trend or something like that. But the film sort of becomes more about the characters in this village and the kind of like eccentricity of some of them, and kind of the fact that these way more interesting stories and characters are happening around them while they're trying to create a fake documentary and construct something, when actually just the conversations they have with the people are like way more interesting than anything they're actually trying to concoct. So yeah, that's kind of the whole idea. They all sort of like, I think there's 4 or 5 of them. They all sort of have their own arcs through the film and like fall in love with various characters in the village, make friends. It's sort of a weirdly wholesome film, but it's quite unique and strange in the way it's constructed. The directing here is so stylish. It's almost mockumentary-esque. Just the camera movements is very intimate and close, but there's also certain ones where it's like transition shots filmed on an iPhone, or like strapped to the back of a stray dog or something just wandering around. It just does such a fun job of kind of painting this eccentric picture of this remote village that these outsiders have come into and kind of integrate into society, and they're accepted, and just there's a sort of wholesome nature about the whole thing. And it's a more feel-good film than I think I thought it was. Like, the more I remember it, the more glad I am that I went to see it. Like, I think at the time, because it's such a oddball film, the first time through it, you just kind of like, what's even going on right now? Like, why is this happening? And then, as a whole, when you think about it, it makes so much more sense. And I think on a rewatch, I'd maybe be able to appreciate some more of the subtleties or eccentricities a bit better. So, yeah, that's what I'd recommend, because I think I like it better now than I did when I watched it, and I haven't even seen it again. So that's a strange one.
It's a grower, not a shower.
It's a grower, not a shower.
I mean, you said Argentina. The big question is Messi in it?
No.
Shame.
One criticism I do have of this is the most famous person in this is Chloe Sevigny? Hold on. I've only ever seen her name written down. I don't think I've ever heard anyone say it. Everyone ready?
Chloe Sevigny.
So the most famous person in this is Chloe Sevigny. And I just think she was a bit underutilized. She played who would be the presenter of the program, doing the interviews and stuff. And I think because it's more about the crew themselves trying to concoct this, she doesn't really have much to do here. The scenes she's in, she's fantastic. The whole cast are brilliant in this. It's one of those films where it seems like there's a lot of kind of normal people in it that they just kind of got to like play little parts here and there. There's a sort of naturalism to it. But yeah, I thought she was a bit underutilized. Other than that, just a cool, oddball little film. Yeah, enjoyed this a lot.
Well done. Don't forget the thumbs up.
Yippee!
Wahayyy!
That's it.
Yeah, short month, May.
It's a shorter month. Yeah, we
Dry,
didn't see
dry.
quite as much. We're still in that. We're just coming out of that spring period where nothing was really going
Yeah, it's a
on.
bit of a dry spell in May, but June and July look like they're going to be fucking stacked.
There's some stuff lined up, so hopefully we'll be able to see plenty. But hey, a couple of gems this month, a couple of duds, and that's just how life goes sometimes.
You just have to live with it. You can't control everything. You can't control the media. You can't.
Tell you who I can control. Agent Pleakley.
You
I've got him in my basement.
Stop talking about Agent Pleakley.
I've
the
got him
piece
in my
of shit.
basement.
He needs to die.
He is dying in my basement.
Good. Let it happen.
Thank you for watching.
No. You're right. You're good. Fly, I think. Sorry.
Swallowed it.
Sorry, Pleakley got in there.
Thank you for watching HAZMAT, reviewing everything they saw in May 2025.
If you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see us do more stuff like this in the future, you can support the channel by leaving a like or a comment. You can hit the subscribe button as well as the notification bell. That way you'll be alerted to all our more recent uploads. And as always, all of our socials will be listed down in the description.
And join us next time where I go to Hawaii to make a fake documentary about a little blue dog.
And I'm probably going to just kill myself, but with the most elaborate machine ever created known to man. I'm thinking burning candle with string. I'm thinking bowling ball. I'm thinking cheese grater. I'm thinking refrigerator. Oh, I be the works, people. I be the works.
Tune in for him killing himself.
Wahayyy!
Yippee!